Ambassador Catherine, Kate Morgan's boots echoed across the crystalline floor of the Galactic Council chamber, each step a deliberate percussion in the hollow silence. The massive chamber, carved from a single asteroid and reinforced with quantum-stabilized fields, housed representatives from over 3,000 species. Some floated in containment spheres filled with exotic atmospheres, while others towered 3 times her height, their bodies shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed their unease. She smiled, knowing exactly why they were nervous. Humans weren't supposed to walk with such purpose. They weren't supposed to look so confident among the stars. According to most xenoanthropological studies, Earth's children should still be fumbling with their first interstellar colonies, struggling to compete with species that had mastered faster-than-light travel millennia ago. Behind her, the chamber's holographic displays showed the burning wreckage of New Providence colony. The images were stark. Shattered dome habitats, fields of hydroponic crops exposed to vacuum, and the bodies of colonists who never made it to their emergency shelters. The Galactic Council had called this meeting to establish new legal frameworks for interstellar commerce. At least, that's what they thought. Honorable representatives, Kate's voice carried through the chamber's acoustic enhancement field, her tone carrying none of the intimidation a junior species was expected to show. I stand before you not to petition, but to inform. She gestured to the horrific images behind her. What you see is the result of your current legal system's failure. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Selection representative, a being of pure crystalline thought, chimed in harmonics that translated as disapproval. Ambassador Morgan, while the loss of your colony is regrettable, you must understand that primitive. That is, emerging species often face setbacks in their expansion phase. Kate's smile widened, and several empathic species in the chamber suddenly shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They sensed something the others missed. She wanted them to underestimate humanity, needed them to maintain their superiority right until the moment their misconceptions shattered. Indeed, she replied, activating her neural interface. The holographic display shifted, showing something that made even the most composed representatives stir. A complete mapped network of every illegal weapons sale, every violated treaty, and every backroom deal that had led to New Providence's destruction. We understand quite well. We understand that the hegemony of 7 supplied illegal quantum weaponry to the Vorax Imperium. We understand that the Selection Consortium provided navigational data to bypass our early warning systems, and we most certainly understand that this chamber's current laws consider humanity too young to demand justice. The Vorax ambassador, a massive being encased in ceremonial battle armor, rose to his full height. You dare accuse established powers without evidence. This is precisely why your species needs guidance, not legal standing. Kate tapped her neural interface again. Suddenly, every representative's personal data feed filled with detailed transaction records, communication logs, and surveillance footage. Some of it dated back decades. Evidence? She asked softly. Humanity doesn't make accusations, Ambassador. We investigate. We document. We prepare. While you thought we were struggling with basic interstellar navigation, we were mapping every shadow route your smugglers use. While you dismissed our quantum technology as primitive, we were using it to intercept communications you thought undetectable. The chamber erupted in chaos. Demands for explanation mixed with outraged denials and shocked revelations. Kate stood quietly at the podium, watching the species that had dominated space for millennia realize a fundamental truth. They had catastrophically underestimated Earth's children. When the noise reached its peak, she spoke again, her voice cutting through the clamor with practiced ease. This meeting wasn't called to establish galactic law. It was called because humanity demanded it. Because while you saw us as primitive, we were learning, adapting, preparing. Today, we're not here to ask for justice. Her smile faded, replaced by an expression that reminded the assembled aliens why humans were classified as apex predators. We're here to explain exactly what happens to those who ignore it. The Terran embassy station hung in space like a gleaming silver lotus, its pedals housing diplomatic missions from 100 worlds. In her private office, Ambassador Catherine Morgan watched the Vorax broadcast for the third time, her expression unchanged as Supreme Commander Vexthor's massive crystalline form dominated the display. "Let the primitive apes beg for their vessels back," the Vorax leader sneered, his translucent armor refracting light in threatening patterns. Behind him, human merchant ships hung in massive docking clamps, their crews presumably imprisoned in the Vorax's notorious rehabilitation centers. Kate sipped her coffee, real Earth coffee, not the synthetic stuff, and pulled up the crew manifests. The Stellar Horizon, the Desert Rose, and the Magellan's Dream. 3 ships, 42 crew members, all deliberately chosen, all perfectly positioned, all exactly where they needed to be. Ambassador, her AI assistant materialized as a subtle blue glow on her desk. The Vorax have seized 3 more vessels in the Perseus Arm. They're being theatrical about it. Of course they are, Kate smiled, bringing up the new footage. The Vorax were broadcasting on all frequencies, showing their warriors boarding human ships with unnecessary force, making grand speeches about putting lesser species in their place. It was exactly what she predicted. Exactly what humanity had planned for. A gentle chime announced an incoming transmission from Earth. Secretary General Rodriguez's hologram appeared in her office, his weathered face bearing the same unsettling smile as Kate's. They took the bait. All of it, Kate confirmed, pulling up a galactic map. Red dots showed the positions of every seized human vessel. They formed a perfect deployment pattern, though the Vorax wouldn't realize that for another 24 hours. Supreme Commander Vexthor is playing his role perfectly. His ego wouldn't let him resist such an obvious opportunity to put humanity in its place. Rodriguez nodded, his hologram flickering slightly. The Council. Divided. Kate brought up the diplomatic feeds. The Selaxians are publicly condemning the siegers while secretly celebrating what they think is our humiliation. The hegemony of 7 is calling for patience and diplomatic solutions, mainly because they're worried we'll reveal their involvement in arming the Vorax. And our crews. Kate's expression softened slightly, implementing Phase 2 as we speak. The Vorax think they're dealing with terrified merchants. They have no idea they've just imprisoned some of our best quantum engineers and cybersecurity specialists. She paused, bringing up the crew files. Permission to show our hand. Rodriguez studied the map, noting how the seized vessels created a perfect network across Vorax space. Granted. Send the warning. Kate's fingers danced across her neural interface, composing the message that would go down in galactic history. You have 24 standard hours to return our ships and crews. This is your only warning. The response was immediate. Vorax communication channels erupted with laughter. Their diplomatic corps sent formal messages dripping with condescension, explaining how young species should know their place. Supreme Commander Vexthor himself broadcast another speech, asking if humans expected them to be frightened by primitive threats. They're reporting this as a joke across their networks, Kate noted, monitoring the Vorax communications. Their military channels are full of commanders telling stories about humanity's pathetic response to the New Providence attack. Rodriguez's hologram nodded. Good. The more they underestimate us, the more effective Ghost Echo will be. He paused, studying Kate's expression, having second thoughts. No, she replied, watching as another human vessel was seized, its position completing the final node in their hidden network. But I am wondering how the galaxy will change after this. The Vorax aren't just going to lose their ships, they're going to lose their identity as a warrior species. Everything they've built their civilization on is about to be undone. They should have thought of that before they attacked New Providence. Rodriguez's voice carried no sympathy. Initiate countdown. When the deadline expires, show them exactly why humanity wrote its own legal code in blood. Kate terminated the transmission and turned to watch the Vorax ships through her office viewport. They were beautiful in their own way, their crystalline hulls refracting starlight like massive diamonds. In 24 hours, they would be little more than very expensive paperweights. She smiled, thinking of the old Earth saying, "Pride comes before a fall." Ambassador Catherine Morgan spoke the 3 words with quiet satisfaction, watching as her neural interface translated them into quantum-encrypted commands. In the vast digital landscape of humanity's hidden network, those simple words trigger a cascade of events that would reshape galactic politics forever. Aboard the Vorax flagship Crystal Dominance, Supreme Commander Vexthor was midway through another speeches about primitive species when every screen in his command center suddenly displayed the same image, a smiling human face, specifically a centuries-old Earth meme known as the troll face. Before his crystalline form could vibrate with rage, the ship's quantum core went dark. The effect spread like a virus through space. Across 47 star systems, over 300 Vorax warships suddenly lost power. Their quantum-locked weapons, supposedly secured by unbreakable algorithms, began playing human music. The final countdown echoed through confused alien corridors, followed by "Never Gonna Give You Up," a 1,000-year-old human tradition of rickrolling, now weaponized on a galactic scale. In her office, Kate watched the chaos unfold through multiple holographic displays. "Status report," she commanded. Her AI assistant materialized, its blue glow pulsing with barely contained amusement. Phase 1 complete. All Vorax military vessels within the network's range have been successfully disabled. Their quantum cores are locked in a recursive loop, playing Earth's greatest hits. Current song selection. Another one bites the dust. But the music was just the humiliation layer. The real masterpiece lay in the supposedly captured merchant vessels. Each helpless trading ship had been carefully chosen, its crew composed of humanity's best cyber warfare specialists. For weeks, they had allowed their ships to be seized, each vessel carrying dormant viral code that mapped and infiltrated the Vorax military network. "Show me the Crystal Dominance," Kate ordered. The display shifted to show the Vorax flagship, now drifting powerless in space. Its crystalline hull, normally pulsing with energy, had dimmed to a dull gleam. Through the ship's own security feeds, she could see the proud warriors reduced to confusion, their advanced technology now little more than expensive decoration. "Message from Secretary General Rodriguez," her AI announced. "He's asking if you'd like to address the Vorax leadership." Kate smiled, adjusting her diplomatic uniform. "Put me through to all disabled ships simultaneously. Let's explain to our crystalline friends exactly what happened." Her hologram appeared in every Vorax command center, her expression professionally neutral despite the satisfaction she felt. "Supreme Commander Vexthor, distinguished warriors of the Vorax Imperium. I trust I have your attention now." The Vorax leader's crystalline form vibrated with fury. "What have you done to our ships? This is an act of war." "No," Kate corrected calmly. "This is a demonstration of why you should have taken our warning seriously. Every ship you seized was a Trojan horse, carrying elite cyber warfare teams who spent weeks mapping your networks. While your warriors were busy mocking our primitive technology, we were learning exactly how your quantum cores worked." She gestured, and technical diagrams appeared alongside her hologram. "Your quantum-locked weapons were impressive, but you forgot something crucial about humanity. We don't just adapt to technology, we subvert it. Every defensive algorithm you built, we found a way around. Every unbreakable code, we broke. Every superior system, we turned against you." Through the security feeds, she could see the growing horror on alien faces as they realized the truth. The primitive apes hadn't just defeated them. They had done it without firing a shot, using the Vorax's own technological superiority as a weapon against them. "Your ships are now running on auxiliary power," Kate explained. "Life support and basic functions remain active because, unlike you, we don't target civilians. In exactly 1 hour, your quantum cores will reboot, but only if you agree to immediate unconditional surrender and the release of all human prisoners." She paused, allowing her next words to carry weight. "If you refuse, we'll demonstrate what happens when we stop being merciful. The same technology that disabled your ships can do far worse. You have 59 minutes to decide whether your pride is worth risking your entire civilization." The silence that followed was broken only by the faint notes of "Another One Bites the Dust," still playing through Vorax command centers. The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos as Ambassador Catherine Morgan calmly walked to the central podium. Behind her, massive displays showed the Vorax fleet, once the most feared armada in known space, floating powerless against the backdrop of stars. "Distinguished representatives," Kate's voice cut through the pandemonium. "You're probably wondering how a primitive species managed to disable the galaxy's most advanced military force." She paused, letting the question hang in the air. "The truth is both simpler and more complex than you imagine." The Selection representative's crystalline form chimed in agitation. "Your species violated over 30 provisions of the Galactic Technology Sharing Accord. Earth was classified as a Level 2 civilization, restricted from accessing quantum manipulation technology." Kate's smile made several empathic species flinch. "Did it ever occur to you to ask why we never disputed that classification?" She activated her neural interface, and the chamber's displays shifted to show decades of human technological development, or rather, what aliens thought was human development. "Every primitive radio signal we broadcast was carefully calculated," she explained. "Every inefficient chemical rocket launch was meticulously designed to appear less advanced than it was. While your anthropologists wrote papers about humanity's slow progress, we were building a solar system-wide quantum detection array disguised as simple communication satellites." The hegemony representative, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, flared with indignation. "Impossible. Our stealth systems are undetectable." "To conventional quantum sensors, yes," Kate agreed. "But humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When we realized we couldn't match your technology directly, we found ways around it. Those primitive radio telescopes you ignored, we modified them to detect quantum wake signatures. Your ships were invisible, but the space they displaced wasn't." She brought up new displays, showing complex mathematical models. "Every time you thought we were struggling with basic cosmic principles, we were actually mapping your technological weaknesses. The Vorax fell because they believed their quantum-locked weapons were unbreakable. They never considered that we might approach quantum mechanics from an entirely different direction." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just developed countermeasures, they'd weaponized their own apparent technological disadvantages. The revelation was staggering. Every assessment of human capabilities had been based on what humans wanted their observers to see. "But the technology wasn't our greatest deception," Kate continued, her voice carrying the hint of amusement. "That honor belongs to our entertainment industry." Confused murmurs rippled through the chamber. Kate explained, "You all watched our movies, our television shows, our virtual entertainments. You wrote them off as primitive attempts at artistic expression. What you didn't realize was that we were using them to test your psychological responses, to understand how different species react to various scenarios." She gestured to the still disabled Vorax fleet. Ghost Echo wasn't just a technological operation. It was psychological warfare centuries in the making. We learned deception from studying how your diplomats responded to our media. We learned your weaknesses by watching your cultural analysts dissect our simple entertainment. The Megaran ambassador, known for his tactical brilliance, suddenly emitted a low hum of understanding. "The classification requests," he said. "Every time we reviewed Earth's technological status, your diplomats argued just enough to maintain interest, but never enough to raise suspicion." Finally, Kate smiled. "Someone asks the right question. Yes, we wanted to stay classified as a Level 2 civilization. It gave us time to prepare, to understand, to adapt. While you were busy congratulating yourselves on containing our development, We were building something none of you expected. A defense system that could turn your own technology against you." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensory organs, and awareness clusters of each representative. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, our adaptability, or even our capacity for warfare. It's our ability to make you underestimate all three. The silence that followed was profound. In that moment, every species in the Galactic Council realized they would need to completely reassess their understanding of humanity. And quickly, the galactic archives buzzed with unprecedented activity as xenoanthropologists from 100 species pored over centuries of human data, desperately trying to understand how they'd misread Earth's children so completely. Dr. Zixtal, the Megarin chief researcher, floated before the central display, his crystalline sensors processing the flood of new information. "Play it again," he commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage from Earth's historical archives. A small mammal, a mongoose, faced off against a cobra several times its size. The snake struck repeatedly, but the mongoose dodged with practiced ease, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it came, the battle ended in seconds. "This is what we missed," Dr. Zixtal announced to the assembled researchers. "We categorized humans as aggressive predators, but failed to recognize their capacity for strategic patience. The mongoose doesn't win through superior strength. It wins through timing, adaptation, and the ability to turn its opponent's strength against them." Across the room, newly declassified human military records painted a startling picture. Earth's children had turned their homeworld's high gravity into an advantage, developing muscles and reflexes that made them formidable in any environment. Their violent history, rather than holding them back, had forged them into masters of adaptation and tactical innovation. "Look at this," called out Professor Venixa, a Salaxian data analyst. She brought up side-by-side comparisons of human scientific papers, the public versions released to the galactic community versus the actual research they'd conducted in secret. The differences were staggering. While officially struggling with basic quantum principles, human scientists had actually developed entirely new approaches to manipulating spacetime. Their published papers contained deliberate errors, carefully crafted to appear as the honest mistakes of a developing species. Meanwhile, in hidden laboratories across Earth and its colonies, they'd perfected technologies that approached quantum mechanics from angles no other species had considered. But the true masterpiece was their entertainment industry, noted cultural analyst Yix, a being of pure thought energy. The displays shifted to show human movies, television shows, and virtual reality simulations. We dismissed these as primitive attempts at artistic expression. But look closer. The analysis revealed layers of psychological research embedded in every piece of human media. Action movies tested alien responses to human combat capabilities. Science fiction explored potential technological developments while deliberately misleading observers about human progress. Even their children's shows contained carefully crafted elements designed to shape how other species perceived human psychology. They turned their entire civilization into a deception operation. Dr. Zixtal marveled. Every piece of data we collected was exactly what they wanted us to see. The evidence mounted as more archives were declassified. Humans had developed their primitive radio telescope network into a sophisticated quantum detection grid that could track cloaked ships across light years. Their inefficient chemical rockets had been a cover for advanced propulsion research. Even their notorious bureaucratic inefficiency had been weaponized, using seemingly endless paperwork to hide critical technological developments in plain sight. Most remarkably, Professor Venixa added, bringing up footage from the New Providence attack, they anticipated everything. The colony's destruction wasn't a surprise. It was a calculated risk. Every civilian had been quietly evacuated weeks before, replaced with automated systems and quantum sensors that mapped the attackers' capabilities. The researchers fell silent as Ambassador Catherine Morgan's image appeared on their screens, her infamous speech to the Galactic Council playing once again. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology, our adaptability, or even our capacity for warfare. It's our ability to make you underestimate all three." Dr. Zixel's crystalline form vibrated with a mixture of admiration and concern. "We spent centuries studying humanity, believing we were containing a potentially dangerous species. Instead, they were studying us, learning our weaknesses, preparing for every possibility. The question isn't how we misread them so badly. It's what else they're capable of that we haven't discovered yet." In the depths of the archives, new data continued to pour in, each revelation more startling than the last. Humanity hadn't just outsmarted the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. They had rewritten the rules of technological and cultural evolution itself. The Vorax delegation's crystalline transport descended through Earth's atmosphere, its once proud warriors watching in stunned silence as human children played in a park near the landing zone. Supreme Commander Vexthor, his massive form dimmed with humiliation, observed a young girl executing a perfect backflip off a swing set, a casual display of agility that would challenge his best warriors. Ambassador Catherine Morgan waited at the landing pad, dressed not in diplomatic finery but in a simple Earth business suit. The message was clear. This wasn't a meeting between superior and inferior species anymore. This was a negotiation between equals, or perhaps not even that. "Welcome to Earth," Kate smiled, gesturing to the Seattle skyline behind her. "We thought it appropriate to host these talks on our homeworld. After all, you were so interested in studying our primitive civilization." Vexthor's crystalline structure vibrated with suppressed emotion. "You chose this location to humiliate us further." "No," Kate replied, leading them toward the conference center. "We chose it to educate you. Look around. Really look." The Vorax delegation moved through the city streets, their escorts seemingly casual but precisely positioned. They passed construction sites where workers manipulated massive steel beams with powered exoskeletons, their movements displaying the casual mastery of a species evolved in high gravity. Street vendors prepared food using both open flames and molecular gastronomy, demonstrating humanity's blend of primitive and advanced technologies. "Your species evolved on a death world," Vexthor finally admitted as they entered the conference room. The view overlooked Puget Sound, where orcas breached beside quantum-powered shipping vessels. "Yet somehow you turned it into paradise without losing the strength it gave you." Kate's expression softened slightly. "That's the first intelligent observation you've made about humanity. Yes, Earth tried to kill us countless times. Instead of leaving, we adapted. Instead of conquering nature, we learned to work with it. That's what you never understood about us." The conference room's displays activated, showing the disabled Vorax fleet. "Your ships remain intact," Kate continued. "Your crews are unharmed. Even your quantum cores can be reactivated with a single command. The question is, what are you willing to learn from this experience?" Vexthor's second-in-command, Crystal Lord Zexkar, moved forward. "Learn? You have destroyed our reputation as warriors. The galaxy will never fear the Vorax again." "Good," Kate replied sharply. "Fear is a poor foundation for civilization. We're offering you something better: partnership." The displays shifted to show technical specifications that made the Vorax leaders' crystalline forms pulse with shock. Plans for hybrid quantum drives combining Vorax crystalline technology with human innovation. Designs for joint defense systems that would make both species stronger. Cultural exchange programs that would help the Vorax evolve beyond their warrior fixation without losing their proud heritage. "This isn't a peace treaty," Kate explained. "It's an evolution treaty. Humanity doesn't want vassals or defeated enemies. We want allies who understand why we hide our strength until it's needed. And our seized territories, our military assets." Vexthor asked, his tone notably less aggressive. Kate smiled. "Keep them. Under joint administration. Your empire-building days are over, but we'll help you build something better, a civilization that values creation over conquest." Through the window, a group of human children waved at the Vorax delegation. Some of the warriors, despite their military discipline, found themselves waving back. In that simple gesture lay the truth about humanity that the galaxy was only beginning to understand. Earth's children had mastered the art of turning enemies into friends precisely because they were strong enough not to need to. "We'll teach you how," Kate said, extending her hand in the ancient human gesture of peace. "But first, let's discuss those trade routes you annexed. I have some ideas about turning them into joint development zones that will benefit both our peoples." Vexthor looked at her offered hand, then at the casual display of human life outside the window. A species that could disable his entire fleet yet chose to build playgrounds. Finally, he understood the true lesson of their defeat. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their hidden technology or their combat prowess, but their ability to win without destroying their opponents. He reached out and took her hand, his crystalline fingers carefully adjusting their grip to match human fragility. "Teach us," he said simply. The new Galactic Council chamber hummed with anticipation. Unlike the old asteroid cart hall, this one had been designed by a joint committee of all spacefaring races, including humans. The architecture reflected a fundamental shift in galactic politics. No species aesthetic dominated the space. Instead, the chamber represented a harmony of different approaches to form and function. Ambassador Catherine Morgan stood at the central podium, her hand hovering over the quantum scanner that would encode Space Law 1 into the Galactic Constitution. Behind her stood representatives from 30 former enemy species, including Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Vorax. Their presence marked more than just diplomatic courtesy. It was testimony to humanity's unique approach to victory. "Distinguished representatives," Kate began, her voice carrying through the chamber's acoustically perfect space. 3 standard months ago, I stood before you to demand justice for an attacked human colony. Today, I stand before you to establish a foundation for lasting peace." The displays around the chamber activated, showing scenes from recent history. The disabled Vorax fleet, the revelation of human capabilities, the successful peace negotiations, and most importantly, the rapid transformation of former adversaries into allies. "The law we're about to ratify isn't just about humanity's right to defend itself," Kate continued. "It's about understanding that appearance never equals capability, that technological advancement doesn't always follow a linear path, and that true strength lies in knowing when not to use it." The Selexian representative chimed in, their crystalline form resonating with newfound respect. "The proposed law seems specifically focused on Earth's children. Is this not an imbalance in galactic legislation?" Kate smiled. "On the surface, yes. But look deeper." She activated her neural interface, bringing up the full text of Space Law 1. "The sovereign rights of Terra's children shall not be infringed upon, for their response will be neither predictable nor proportional, but it will be decisive. Yet in their decisiveness, they shall show mercy. In their victory, they shall seek understanding, and in their strength, they shall strive for peace." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a law protecting humanity. It was a template for how advanced civilizations should behave. The second part, about mercy and understanding, transformed what could have been a simple warning into a philosophical framework for galactic cooperation. Supreme Commander Vexthor stepped forward, his crystalline form now adorned with the newly created symbols of both warrior heritage and peaceful innovation. "The Vorax Imperium votes in favor. We have learned that true strength lies not in the ability to conquer, but in the wisdom to cooperate." One by one, other species added their support. The Hegemony of 7, the Selexian Consortium, the Megaran Collective. Former adversaries and neutral parties alike recognized the elegance of the law's deeper meaning. "This law," Kate explained as the votes were tallied, "serves as both shield and bridge. It protects humanity's right to exist and develop in our own way, while offering a hand in friendship to those who choose to understand us." The quantum scanner hummed to life under her palm, reading the collected consciousness of the assembled species. The vote was unanimous, a first in Galactic Council history. As Space Law 1 was encoded into the Galactic Constitution, the chamber's architecture responded. Crystalline structures shifted, Energy fields realigned, and gravitational arts danced across the ceiling. The chamber itself celebrated the moment when the galaxy's civilizations chose understanding over dominance. "Let the record show," Kate announced, her voice carrying the weight of history, "that on this day, we established not just a law, but a principle. The principle that true civilization is measured not by its ability to conquer, but by its capacity for growth, understanding, and mercy." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, sensory organs, and awareness clusters of each representative. "We are Terra's children, yes. But from this day forward, we are also teachers, allies and friends to any who choose to learn what real strength means." The Galactic Council Chamber, designed to represent unity and diversity, resonated with approval. Space Law 1 was more than legislation. It was a revolution in how advanced species would interact for millennia to come. A decade after the ratification of Space Law 1, young Kexexi sat in the prestigious Galactic Academy of Law, her crystalline form vibrating with curiosity as she raised her sensory cluster. "Professor Morgan, why do we still study the Morgan Doctrine when humanity has proven to be such a peaceful member of the galactic community?" Catherine Morgan, now silver-haired but still carrying herself with the same purposeful grace, smiled at her Vorax student. The classroom itself was a testament to how much had changed. Young beings from 30 different species studying together, including several whose ancestors had once been bitter enemies. "An excellent question," Kate responded, activating the classroom's holographic display. "Let me show you something from Earth's history." 3 images appeared: a small mongoose facing down a cobra, a martial artist redirecting an opponent's strength, and footage from the legendary Ghost Echo operation. "What do these have in common?" A Selection student chimed in. "They all show the smaller opponent winning." "Deeper," Kate encouraged. "Look closer." Kexixi's crystalline structure brightened with sudden understanding. "They all show power being redirected rather than directly opposed. The mongoose doesn't overpower the cobra. It waits for the right moment. The martial artist uses their opponent's strength against them. And in Ghost Echo, humanity turned the Vorax's own technological superiority into a weakness," Kate completed. "But that's still not the most important lesson." She brought up new footage: the peace negotiations, the joint scientific projects that followed, and the flourishing trade routes that had once been zones of conflict. "The Morgan Doctrine isn't about humanity's strength," Kate explained. "It's about understanding that true power lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. Your own people, the Vorax, helped us prove this." The display shifted to show the transformation of Vorax society. Their warrior culture hadn't been erased, it had evolved. Their crystal ships still patrolled space, but now they protected joint colonies and trade routes. Their combat expertise had been redirected into emergency response and disaster relief. "But Professor," a Megaran student's energy form pulsed with confusion, "couldn't any species have done this? Why did it take humanity to change galactic society?" Kate walked to the window, gesturing at the bustling spaceport beyond. Ships of all species moved in harmony, their designs reflecting both their unique cultures and their shared technological advancement. Because humanity had something unique: perspective. We evolved on a world that constantly tried to kill us. We survived countless near extinctions. We developed technology in fits and starts, always aware that we were one mistake away from destruction. When we reached the stars, we did so not as conquerors who had mastered nature, but as survivors who had learned to work with it. She turned back to her students. "The Morgan Doctrine continues to be studied not because humanity is special, but because we learned lessons that every advanced civilization eventually needs to understand. Strength without wisdom is dangerous. Technology without ethics is destructive, and victory without mercy is empty." Kexixi's structure resonated with a new frequency, the Vorax equivalent of an epiphany. That's why Space Law 1 includes the parts about mercy and understanding. It's not just a warning to potential aggressors, it's a guide for how advanced species should behave. Exactly, Kate smiled. And that's why I choose to teach here instead of continuing in diplomacy. The future of galactic civilization isn't in preventing conflicts, it's in raising generations who understand why conflict is unnecessary. She brought up one final image. The original signing of Space Law 1, where former enemies stood together as allies. Remember this, humanity's greatest achievement wasn't in defeating the Vorax fleet, or in hiding our technological advancement, or even in establishing Space Law 1. It was in showing the galaxy that evolution doesn't end with technological supremacy. It begins there. As her students filed out after class, Kate noticed Kexixi lingering behind, her crystalline form emitting the subtle patterns that indicated deep thought. The young Vorax student had the same contemplative resonance that Vexthor had shown during the peace negotiations, the moment when understanding truly dawned. Kate smiled, knowing that the real legacy of Space Law 1 lived on in moments like these, when the children of former enemies learned to see the universe not as a battlefield to be conquered, but as a mystery to be explored together.